What's up, Lions of Liberty fans? You can now support this show on Patreon and get exclusive access to bonus audio and video content, including Conspiracy Corner, Degenerate Gamblers, bonus segments with guests, and so much more. Head on over to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to yet another edition of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. Of course, we focus each and every single Friday on exposing injustice in this nation's broken criminal justice system. If you aren't familiar with Lions of Liberty, what we're all about, what the format of our podcast is, let me tell you, it's a variety show. We have three different shows. We have a Monday show hosted by Mark Clare, where he interviews leaders in the Liberty movement. We have a Wednesday show hosted by Brian McWilliams. It's your weekly shot of culture, comedy, and liberty. And every Friday, you get Felony Friday. You can get all three of these shows by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, wherever you podcast. Be sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss an episode, and you don't want to miss any of these recent episodes. Mark Clare and I were at the Libertarian National Convention in New Orleans just this past week. I just got back on Wednesday, I guess. The 4th of July is when we returned to Pittsburgh. But we were there. We covered the entire convention, Mark and myself. We covered the Mises Caucus Bash event that they had right before as the convention was getting started. Just incredible interviews. Go back, and if you haven't heard them yet, check out the interviews that Mark Clare posted at the beginning of this week from the Mises Caucus Bash, and interviews surrounding that, interviews with Tom Woods, Larry Sharp, Joshua Smith, bunch of great interviews. You want to check out all of those interviews. But, of course, today's show, Felony Friday, I have two awesome interviews lined up for you with Maj Toure, the founder of Black Guns Matter, and Eric Mulder, who's running for sheriff in Arapahoe County on the Libertarian ticket. And I'll talk a little bit more about those interviews in a minute, but I really want to encourage you guys, if you haven't yet, we did do all these interviews, we live streamed them on Facebook, and we're going to be doing a lot more live streaming on our Facebook page. You're going to want to go to the Facebook and follow. Give us a like. Be sure to like Lions of Liberty, the page, and also be sure to join our Facebook group, the Lions of Liberty Forum. And if you really love the content we're dishing out and you want us to do more of this stuff, more of these live events, please consider joining the Lions of Liberty Pride. You can go to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty and toss us $5, $10, $15, $25, $100, whatever you want to give us per month. You'll get goodies in return. You'll get bonus content in return, all that good stuff. So check it out. The show notes page for today's episode will be at lionsofliberty.com/FF131, because this is the 131st episode of Felony Friday. And this is going to be two separate interviews in one show. The first interview is with Maj Toure. Maj was at the Libertarian National Convention. He participated in a panel, a black community outreach panel with Cynthia McKinley and LaTanya Whittington. And it was an exceptional panel. It was hosted by Adam Kokesh. And Maj and I talk about that panel. We talk a little bit about what Black Guns Matter has been able to accomplish so far in urban communities. So incredible stuff. One of my favorite interviews from the weekend. So I definitely wanted to bring it to you guys in podcast form. So here it is, my interview with Maj Toure, live from the Libertarian National Convention. If we do hear background noise and stuff like that, it's because we're in a media room and there's other stuff going on. There's other people talking and we're sitting right next to each other. So you might pick up a little bit of that going on, but that's ambience. You can't pay for that stuff. It's great. And well, you can pay for it, but it's free. It's free from us. So enjoy it. Here it is. What's up, Lions of Liberty fans? This is John Odermatt, Felony Friday, here with Maj Toure. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Good to meet you in person, man.
For sure.
And we're at the Libertarian National Convention. First question to you, man. What are you doing here? Are you a libertarian now?
So I think in essence, a lot of us are. We may just, especially in urban America, we just may not know the languaging or the term. Sometimes we do stuff and don't have the terminology. But I think in principle and in theory, a lot of us are. Again, we just don't know the titling of it. I've had conversations, with like Killer Mike and, Big Boy from Outkast is a huge libertarian. So the principles, absolutely. I'm here kind of to try to figure out how I can get the understanding translated into hoods across America, really. Just to show people that they have a viable option outside of just the two-party system. So I'm here for that. It's been love. It's been good energy. It's been a lot of good networking and positive, supportive people that have a passion for principles, and that is kind of absent in a lot of different spaces.
Yeah, that was a cool event last night. So for those watching out there and listening to the podcast, Adam Kokesh put together I think it was titled Black Community Outreach.
Yeah.
And it was yourself, Cynthia McKinley.
Yeah.
And I'm blanking on the third woman's name.
LaTanya Whittington.
Tanya Whittington.
Yeah.
And can you just talk a little bit about, really what the theme of that event was?
Well, it's funny because it was two things. When I forget who I spoke to, and it was like, yeah, we're going to call it the Black Outreach Panel. I was like, oh, that's a horrible name. And he was like, no, because we kind of want to, when they explained it to me, I'm like, we want to be very direct about there needs to be more people, African-American, Black people in the Libertarian Party. I'm like, okay, I could get with the directness to that. So that's really what the panel was about. But bigger than that, it was, LaTanya deals with marijuana legalization. She works for NORML down in Houston, right. I think, in Texas. Cynthia McKinney, our congresswoman, just a bunch of stuff. Like, she's like a Walmart of knowledge. Who else? Adam is Adam, like the... But I mean, he brought that together to kind of like address and highlight some of the issues that the Libertarian Party is trying to make an active change and making sure that, again, they're making themselves viable and accessible to urban America. It's a tug of war in the sense of you need more hands on the liberty side of things. So that's what the panel was about. I mean, we went from prison-industrial complex conversation to, cultural paradigm shifts that are necessary and things of that nature.
Yeah, but that was cool because, you brought that up, that there really needs to be a change really in the way we're thinking about things. Yeah. Because it's, I think there's certain things people are raised in certain situations where they just kind of react, right? And just because that's what they've seen, that's just what they've done. Yeah. So, but like, what's kind of a way to sort of ignite a spark to change that?
Well, for one, you got to recognize that, something that Cynthia said on the panel yesterday was finding out we've all been rigged. You've been rigged to believe a certain concept. One, finding out where your rigging for yourself is being done and accepting either, I'm cool with that rigging, or no, I want to change that rigging. That's the first step. And then in understanding that about self, you go, okay, these people that are communicating with me a certain way are basing it off of their paradigm or their rigging. So it takes some of the sting out of it. It's like you don't even know me personally. It's like I move around, I got tattoos, I got long hair, I got all of this, stuff that people go. But it's like, we had a conversation with me, it realigns that perception. So I think one of the things is making sure that the recognizing the rigging, again, even in the Libertarian Party, to have a panel discussion like that and be very upfront with it, saying, hey, we've been rigged a certain way. Some of that's intentional, some of that's accidental. How can we change the rigging that we're disagreeing with? That's step one. And then coming from that place of principle. Not leading necessarily with race per se, but going, hey, we are trying to get more people of African, descent, African Americans into the Libertarian Party because that's necessary. However, those principles, the reason why we're doing it is because these principles are not being shared or may not be communicated as effectively as we would like to this specific area. But the principles are still a thing. So leading with the principles, recognizing your own rigging and recognizing that those other people that you're trying to actually reach have some rigging of their own to do. And just, looking at it for the marathon run, not necessarily the sprint.
Where do you think we are with that? Because, I mean, especially looking at recent events with really Kanye West coming out and as Scott Adams will say, really shaking the box, making people think, not necessarily like endorsing Donald Trump, but thinking, you're allowed to think for yourself. Start looking at other options, and
Right.
what Candace Owens is doing too. Do you think within the black community that there's more openness to other political ideologies in order to change things?
Absolutely, because I mean, that started changing when these smartphones became very popular.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you said libertarian, let's say iPhone 1, libertarian in the hood is like, what? I don't know what you're talking about.
I think that's outside of the hood too. That's
Right. You know
most
what I'm
people
saying? When that information access starts changing, because, okay, I'm not just using my phone for Candy Crush, you know, there's other information coming across my Explore pages, even on social media. Saying that to say, yeah, the hood is open to those things, but it gotta be legit. It's no different than I've had conversations with really large Second Amendment organizations for the work that we're doing at Black Guns Matter. It can't just be a photo op. It can't just be, hey, I want to take the picture with the guy and use that as the thing to show that I'm in support of. Right. You know, so for example, Pete Brownell, who was the president of NRA up until recently, he just didn't, you know, want to be the president anymore. He didn't throw his name back in the hat. He gave us $5,000. The work that we're doing and having these free classes around the country to everybody in urban America specifically are free to all. Firearm safety, basic law, you know, what you have to do to get your license to carry, you know, as well as teaching people to think outside of that box. These are free classes. Saying this to say, we do that off of the support of everybody else. A bigger dude that does $5,000 is not going to hurt him, but it's a hell of a symbol to say, hey, I'm supporting the work that this thing is done. That's legit. He's literally putting his money where his mouth is.
Walking the walk.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of people talk, but yeah, walking the walk. We need more of that.
So our community is open to those things, but you know, it got to be legit. It got to be real. Listen. No one in the hood is saying, oh, even though we have traditionally for some time now voted democratically, nobody in the hood is going, you know, this is the only way. This is, you know, we do it because maybe we voted out of fear or tradition. But when you present new information to people, it might be an initial backlash, but at the same time, when the dust settles, people are still going to go, yeah, I think I get what Kanye was trying to say. I might disagree with this part of what he was trying to say, but yeah, you know, black people don't have to just be, and it was doubled down by Chance the Rapper. Just because you black doesn't mean you only have to go Democrat, nor does it mean you got to just go in mass exodus just to Republican Party. We're in a space now where those things are being opened, you know, and it just has to be viable, legitimate things. When it's viable and legitimate, nobody's going to go, yeah, I'm going to just stay here because this is, you know, what I'm used to. When there's a viable option that's like, okay, I'll stay here if there's no viable option that I can see. But I will not stay here if there are viable options. When you show people, you know, most of the areas, again, the work that we're doing, most of the areas that we go into are democratically ran cities that have high extreme violent rates that also have high gun control. On the same time, they're telling you gun control is supposed to make you safer. But it's historically not. It's not. When you put that basic information in front of somebody and go, hey, here's a party that's in support of you having the right to defend your life. Okay, that's an easy fix for them, you know, but you just have to make that information accessible. It got to be tangible and it got to be real. And there will be, and it don't even got to be a force. It'll just be, yeah, I'm all for that. So yeah, we in that space.
And I think that's the hardest part though, as libertarians, is getting that message so people actually see it.
Yeah.
I managed to campaign for Dale Kearns, Libertarian, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I think you've met Dale before.
Yeah.
But it's the media, number one, your major news media, they're not even reporting on Libertarian candidates. But it's hard to get the message in front of people, in front of the African American community, to even know that, hey, you know, we have, you know, a Democrat candidate who, for as long as I can remember, they've been sort of pro-gun control.
Yeah.
And the Republicans who are pro-Second Amendment, but there's other policies which obviously are terrible for the black community. They don't even know there's a third option. Right. So they're kind of taking the lesser of two evils.
The reason for that is because the Libertarian Party has to have liaisons. It's just like a corporation. You can't go into a community and, you know, if there's no trust already there, you either have to set up shop and build trust. But you're trying to build the party, so you kind of can at the same time. But what you have to do is have liaisons that are already there that can translate the information, even if we're saying the same thing. If my community is rigged, their rigs are, I'm not as trustworthy because of the fact that we've been taken advantage before. And this is all I know presently. There's no reason for me to believe that there's another viable option. And my rigging says this person is coming to extract as opposed to build.
Right.
Liaisons are, again, like I said yesterday, it's like the mob. Hey, you vouching for him? Yeah, I'm vouching for him. They good people. All right, I'll give him a shot. Because good or bad, whatever happens, that's your fault because you vouch for him. That's the beauty of a liaison. You cannot, and you got to respect that. You got to respect that. It's like, there's certain things that, if you don't speak the language, if you don't fit the environment, it's going to be much difficult for that messaging to get through. You have to have influencers and liaisons. And I think that's one of the major reasons why I'm here, to see who's open, who's being willing to say, hey, I'll work with you as our liaison. I would love to have somebody in the the Libertarian Party to say, hey, we're going to donate to the work that you're doing. It's the same thing I had said to Pete Brownell. He said, I love what you're doing here. It's $5,000, right? I'm like, Pete, in exchange for that, I want my community to understand who you are, what you do, so forth and so on. That has to happen in every single organization. If the Libertarian Party wants to say, hey, we want to get into urban America, it has to be something meaningful that says, that my demographic says, they walk in that walk because they're getting behind the work that's actually helping our community.
You got to actually see them in the community, right?
You got to see it. Yeah. You got to see it. You got to see the work. You got to see the reps. You got to see the tangibility of the philosophy. Because to me, as in studying, it clearly makes sense. But that's because I'm seeking out knowledge. Somebody else that's in the everyday grind, the knowledge got to be brought to them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you can't do it. Like, you just got to, certain things, it's like, if I'm not playing, there's less of a chance of me being a linebacker in my size. It's just what it is. I may not be a defensive lineman, right? I may be a running back. I definitely could be a point guard in basketball, but I probably won't be the center.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so you just got to recognize what your lane is, and still we trying to, as a team, to get the W. And so I think both sides are there. I think I would love to see more, libertarian candidates, just members, get behind, even, and it sounds like a shameless plug, but we're doing the work. We're doing the work that's going to educate, inform, protect urban America, and getting them back in the alignment with, the concept of freedom, of you being in control of you and me being in control of me, So I think the Libertarian Party does represent that, but, we got to create more strategic relationships.
Well, let's talk about Black Guns Matter a little bit because, you've had a lot of success. So for those who, maybe some people out there aren't familiar with really the work you've done, let's talk about some of your successes and, where, you've been all across the U.S.
Yeah. So some of the successes have been, bridging those gaps like this. So next year, if I come to the Libertarian National Convention, there'll be a bunch of other people from, hoods across America, whether that's Black hood, white hood, Spanish hood, Asian hood, whatever. Getting more people, working class people to come make their presence felt. We've had success with that in the gun community in our classes because we're going to the places where traditionally firearms are looked at as taboo and bad. So we've had tremendous success there. But the other successes are, again, bridging those gaps in places where, going to these other organizations or these gun movements or these gun shows, we can do that too. Bridging those gaps and getting people that, from traditional communities in regards to the Second Amendment, going, oh man, thank you for bringing these people because we did not know how to reach them. Being that translator and that connector is something that we've been very successful at. Some of the failures have been it just hasn't been fast enough, and we haven't raised funds fast enough. We've raised we've raised about 100 and I think we had like maybe $23,000, but we've used that to hit already 40 cities and do these free classes.
Isn't it amazing? I think that with organizations like yours, or even with the Libertarian Party, I think we make our money go so much farther than when you look at the the big time, even like you look at the NRA, you look at the Republican or Democrat Party. $100,000 for small organizations like this.
Stretch.
We're going to make it count.
Yeah, you can stretch. And it's like to get that done on a shoestring budget, it's amazing. It's amazing. You got to honor that. You know what I'm saying? Some of these big companies, like that's their catering budget for like the quarter. You know what I'm saying? So to be able to take information, and again, that's creating strategic partnerships, linking with trainers in each one of those cities. And hey, you're a trainer, come teach this class for free, basic firearm anatomy and things of that nature, basic firearm rules. Hey, you're the attorney, Mark Victor. Come talk about freedom in that concept in Phoenix. Hey, azfirearms.com. You guys have, this place in Pot of Gold Auctions. You guys have this location. let's bring the community and use your location. All for free to support the community. And then in turn, the community then supports those businesses and those trainers and those lawyers. It's a beautiful symbiotic relationship.
It's a very libertarian thing.
It's a very libertarian thing. So in theory, we're doing these things. We just may not know that, there's a way to make money as well as be socially, make a living and make an impact, right? There's a way to be socially responsible as well as, okay, we can support businesses, right. Especially on a local level. Those are more the areas that we've had success in. But again, for me, it's our goal was $150,000. We're maybe $20,000 away from that. I would love to, and I've been kind of running this in my mind. Imagine if we could do what we did in 2 years. If we do this another year after the tour, imagine if we can get the same impact in half the time. So to me, being so close to that goal, it's like, man, how can I refine this? How can I do this better, stronger, and faster?
Learn from your mistakes.
Right.
Right. We all make mistakes.
Yep.
That's how you improve.
That's how you grow.
Awesome, man. Well, I just want you to let everyone know out there watching on Facebook, listening on the podcast, how can they learn more about Black Guns Matter? How can they donate? How can they get the T-shirt you're wearing yesterday?
Everybody that's watching, you guys can go, and women can go out to our website is officialblackgunsmatter.com. Our GoFundMe, if you're listening, if you agree with any of the things we're saying right now, the GoFundMe is gofundme.com/blackgunsmatter. If you're a crypto person, DM me. I'll send you a key if you want to donate in cryptocurrency. We do that as well. That's something that I've never seen before, and that's trying to be ahead of the curve a bit. It's accepting donations in crypto. You know what I'm saying? Some dudes are like, yo, I got some Litecoin, I got some Bitcoin, I got some Ethereum, you know what I mean? So, you guys can do that. If you want the shirts, the Black Guns Matter merch, that's at solutionarylifestyle.bigcartel.com. And bigger than all of that stuff is just, reach out to people, link up, communicate. Just try to think a little bit more outside of the box. And if you've found information about the Libertarian Party, reach out to other organizations or areas that are not within your personal silo, because that's how we strengthen and get more hands, on this side of, the tug of war road. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really enjoyed it.
Same here. Peace.
All right. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that episode there, that interview there with Maj Toure. Like I said at the top, one of my favorite conversations that I had the entire weekend. I think it's so important what we talked about, so important to find ways to reach people who are really outside the circle of influence that the Libertarian Party wields. We need to make alliances. We need to, as Maj Toure talked about, bring advocates, find people to vouch for us within the Black community, with Maj Toure hopefully being one of those people, one of those voices that can come in and be a voice to say, you know what, these guys are principled, these guys care about individual rights, they care about your rights, and they're here to support your rights, here to support your right to defend your life, your speech, your family, and to live in a free society. That's what it's all about. So the message will sell itself, but it's getting the ability to get out there and communicate the message to people, that's that first barrier we got to get over. So really enjoyed that interview with Maj Toure. Next up is my interview that I did with Eric Mulder. He is a candidate for sheriff in Arapahoe County, Colorado. Eric has some really fantastic ideas. I really enjoyed speaking with him. I'll talk a little bit more about Eric's ideas after the interview, but without further ado, I give you Eric Mulder. What's up, Lions of Liberty? This is John Odermatt, host of Felony Friday, here at the LNC convention in New Orleans with Eric Mulder. Eric.
Thank you, John.
Good to meet you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
Eric.
Great to be here.
Eric is running for sheriff in Arapahoe County. Did I say that right?
Yep, Arapahoe County, Colorado.
In Colorado. So, Eric, let's get right to it. You're a libertarian, obviously. What brought you to the ideas of liberty?
Honestly, what brought me to the ideas of liberty, it was a mix of a couple of things. I would say one of the earliest influence I had was Ron Paul, because as a kid growing up, I wasn't sure of my political ideology, much like any other child growing up, tried different ideas. And what drew me into libertarianism initially was Ron Paul's stances of non-intervention, things of that nature. And then from there, I went to my first Libertarian County meeting in El Paso County, which is where Colorado Springs is, about 90 minutes away from my hometown. And it was from there I learned about free markets, voluntary association, voluntarism, things of that nature. So that's when I really started to dive in, and that's when I knew, yes, this is my political home.
So you started out as a Republican, decided to get involved with the Libertarian Party, and now you're running on the Libertarian ticket. What motivated you to make that step?
Well, I was initially an independent, and I stayed that way for a couple of years. The Libertarian Party is the only party I've been registered with. And what really encouraged me to start getting more involved with the Libertarian Party actually was the Gary Johnson campaign in 2016. Okay. I like to make the joke that Ron Paul was who convinced me I was a Libertarian, and Gary Johnson was who convinced me to put on the suit and do something about it.
That's interesting. Was it when he stuck his tongue out? Was that when you were, no.
It was a good mix of a couple of things, but mostly what I liked about his approach is that he was very approachable during his campaign, and he made the case for non-intervention, opposition to the war on drugs, and that resonated with a lot of people, myself included.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about your race. Lance Psycho, who's sitting over here, a member of Lions of Liberty Pride, has been telling me that you have a very good chance of winning. It's a very competitive race. You're running against, I think, a Republican and a Democrat. So do you have a chance to win?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because the Republican and the Democrat, it's a repeat from 2014. Both candidates are exactly the same. They ran against each other in 2014, and they're doing it again on 2018. They are both literally going through the motions. The Republican is going through his talking points he used against the Democrat the last time, and the Democrat's using the same talking points he used the last time. So I'm really the only new factor in this race, and that's gotten a lot of people excited. I've convinced a lot of people that libertarians should be sheriff, and I've gotten a lot of people to hear what a libertarian actually is for a lot of them for the first time in their life. And I'm getting first-time people saying, hey, can I pass out your literature when I go door-to-door for other candidates? So we've been very successful at just reaching people on an individual level.
That's cool. So what's your approach? When you approach somebody new, an independent or even a Republican or a Democrat, what's your selling point? Why should they campaign for you, vote for you, donate money?
Yep, absolutely. One of the biggest reasons that I've been able to win over people is my platform. It's been dubbed the 3D platform because all three of the major planks start with D. First plank is demilitarization, because the federal government has exerted way too much influence over local law enforcement through the 1033 program, saying, hey, if you want all these fancy toys that we have left over from the military, you got to toe the line and you got to use them the way we want to. And I'm completely opposed to the 1033 program, much in the same regard that the Pauls were.
Can you tell us a little bit more for listeners out there, what exactly is the 1033 program? Because it's fairly recent that it was instituted, right?
Somewhat. It's been ongoing for a couple of years, but it didn't quite make as much attention as it is now, which we're finding with a lot of issues, is that a lot of backlash against issues that are coming to the surface now, a lot of those issues have been ongoing for a very long time. So it's not just particular administrations, it's just been the way things have been done for a while, which is the problem. And the 1033 program, to be specific, it's the federal government program where local police departments get their up-armored vehicles, M16s, body armor, things of that nature. And what's important to emphasize about demilitarization is that it's not about taking away law enforcement's ability to protect themselves from danger. I was in the military for 6 years, so I know a lot of the dangers that they face. But it's also about changing mindsets because, for example, the MRAP, which is a popular vehicle distributed through the 1033 program, in nearly every measurable test when it comes to the needs of a police department, the MRAP falls significantly short compared to the Bearcat per se. Because
what is the MRAP? Can you tell us?
Absolutely. So the MRAP is a military up-armored vehicle. It looks like a Humvee on steroids. I used those when I was in Afghanistan. And what police departments are finding the problem to be with the MRAP, because most departments aren't going to turn that down because it's like, hey, a free MRAP from the government, no strings attached, we'll take it.
Free from the government.
But what they're fast finding out is that free does not mean free, because the MRAP requires specialized maintenance. It requires parts from specialized distributors, and there's very few of them because they mostly contract with the military. And what they're also finding is that the MRAP is really good at resisting improvised explosive devices, IEDs, but that's what they were built to do. Resist IEDs in Afghanistan and Iraq. They weren't so much built for handling the everyday needs of police departments.
There's not a lot of IEDs around, when you're
definitely,
patrolling a suburban area or the city.
Yeah, not too many IEDs in Arapahoe County. We don't have to deal with that very often.
Yeah, so the 1033 program, I think I'm all for demilitarizing the police. Mm-hmm. But one of the reasons why I think they started that program is because they had all these excess vehicles coming in, all this excess, the body armor, all that stuff from foreign wars. So where would that stuff go to if we're able to? I guess that would happen at the federal level. Doesn't really affect your race, but what would happen to all that stuff?
Ultimately, I think it would be a good idea to take a page out of Ron Paul's book. We need to start taking these swords and turning them into plowshares. We could scrap MRAPs down for the metals that we need. We could redistribute these materials and use them for other purposes.
Excellent answer. I like that. I like that a lot. So let's talk about your race a little bit more. What are the details on it? When is the election?
Well, the election's coming up on November 6th. That's going to be right around the same time as all the other elections in Colorado. We've got all of our statewide executive races: governor, lieutenant governor, treasurer, secretary of state, attorney general. We've got the U.S. House races coming up, and we've got the state general assembly races coming up. So the state house and the state assembly and all of our county races are going to be happening on that day. So election day, November 6th, it's going to be a real big day in Colorado.
And if you are elected, which you have a very good chance of being elected, what are the first couple things that you would do?
Honestly, one of the first couple of things I'm going to be doing, going back to my military training, is do a left seat, right seat with the incumbent sheriff, because I'm going to need to spend some time in the department before I'm sworn in and I really start getting to work to just get a feel for the culture around the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, get a feeling for where everyone's at, where everyone's feeling uneasy, and where the uncertainty is. Mm-hmm.
And then after that, policy-wise, what's one thing that you would implement?
Absolutely. Policy-wise, I definitely want to take a look at our standard operating procedures. Because of the military, we do that mindset as well. Everything that we do is written down and it's in manuals. Because of the military, we are trained to follow the standard and we are trained to do things over and over again. And we've seen a lot recently with police videos and police encounters that people are recording. There's a lot of bad training that's been going out there. Mm-hmm. We've been seeing very sloppy detainment procedures, very bad usage of force, and it's like we could address this through retraining, and we could do this through repeating the proper training that we need to do.
That's an excellent point. So is it as simple as just retraining people? Because just a couple weeks ago, an event that comes to mind, police shooting that comes to mind is I'm from Pittsburgh, and there was a young kid that was gunned down. He was running away from police, unarmed, and was shot three times and killed. So events like that, is retraining enough to really stop that from occurring?
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. That is just not enough, but retraining is just one part of the aspect, because we are finding that people rightfully don't trust their own law enforcement agencies because it's literally an us versus them mindset. And this is coming from the law enforcement side as well. Law enforcement believes there's a war on law enforcement. So right now we're seeing this disconnect between public trust and law enforcement trust. And that's the importance of having a citizen libertarian as the sheriff of a county. You can serve as that citizen commander-in-chief, give people that confidence that, yes, we control the system doesn't control us. So not only in cases like that where retraining might be necessary, but complete and total thorough investigations have to be conducted. So that means as sheriff, I need to be asking the tough questions for whenever an incident happens, saying, all right, we're going to go over this step by step. We're going to see what happened here, so that way I need to know if actions need to be taken further, if retraining is not enough, if we have to go a step further.
Right on. Let's talk about the war on drugs a little bit. Because there are some counties across the United States that have been able to implement some programs wherein they're pretty much nullify the war on drugs, and they're able to help people who are struggling with addiction per se, maybe come forward and not face the threat of arrest and prosecution as they're getting help. Police departments, some have been facilitating that. Is that something that you would consider doing?
Absolutely. And Colorado itself has found a lot of success with that. Over in San Miguel County, we have a sheriff, Bill Masters. He was initially elected as a libertarian, actually. He's gone on to other parties, but the mindset is still there. And he's been a long-time sheriff. We're talking several decades. And he's even written a book about the failures of the war on drugs. And he has stated, no-knock raids hurt community trust, treating the opioid crisis as a law emergency instead of what it actually is, a medical emergency, that doesn't help anybody. Because we've got counties across this country and states across this country who are finding that the most effective solution to this is to treat it as a issue of treatment. That means destigmatizing, going to get help, going into rehab, and in some cases, even having to decriminalize things like needle exchanges, decriminalize the issuing of life-saving medication. And that's another big part of my platform is decriminalization, because the war on drugs mindset has simply not helped anyone.
And in Colorado, it seems like that is an area that's probably a little bit ahead of the rest of the country.
Absolutely. I like to believe that Colorado's been a trailblazer in a lot of ways, especially several of the organizations and the local community groups who are pushing for this decriminalization approach, who are pushing for criminal justice reform, for drug possession reform, things of that nature, because they understand people aren't going to get help if they're afraid of going to jail for trying to get help.
Right on. So we're going to wrap things up. I want you to tell the people listening out there on Facebook, watching on Facebook too, and the people listening to this podcast, how can they, number one, find your campaign, and how can they help?
The easiest way to find my campaign, I'm right here on social media. I'm on Facebook at Mulder for Sheriff. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Mulder for Sheriff as well. You could also go onto my website, mulderforsheriff.com, and you can contribute on my CrowdPack page. A lot of people are always worried about fundraising. They're thinking, can I really make a difference? And the answer is yes. Just $10 alone pays for an entire month of my web hosting. $5 can get me 30 leaflets, and $5 could even get me 5 bumper stickers. So yes, even just $5 can help me out, because I'm running a very aggressive grassroots campaign on this issue. The Republicans raised $16,000 to my $3,000 so far. And that $3,000 has come from concerned everyday citizens who are giving $2 or $3 anywhere they can give it. So I can absolutely use the help, and I will absolutely welcome your help, because we can bring a demilitarized approach to the sheriff's department, a decriminalized approach, and we can uphold the due process that's written right in the Constitution that says, yes, you are entitled to protections and due process of law, and that's for every citizen in this county.
Very cool, Eric. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and good luck.
Thank you for having me on the show, John.
We'll see you. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed those two interviews with Maj Toure and with Eric Mulder. You know, the Libertarian National Convention overall, I came away very impressed at several different aspects. Number one, there are great people in the party. There are hard-working people in the party. And the problem is a lot of people see the outside. They see what one or two people say. They see what the former vice chair, Arvin Vohra, chose to say, some of the things he released, maybe some of the memes that were actually released by the Libertarian Party themselves. One that praised Satan or Satan worshiping for something like that, which came out a year or so ago. That's stupid shit. That's dumb. That stuff should not come out of an organization like the Libertarian Party. It's bad messaging, bad marketing, bad persuasion. It's bad all the above. But with that being said, I met more people who have their shit together, who are working hard in their local communities to advance the ideas of liberty. I met more people than you can freaking imagine. And it was awesome. It was incredible to, share strategies with them, talk goals, talk about what we see coming up in 2018 in this election, what we see coming up in 2020 when we nominate the next Libertarian candidate and maybe elect the first Libertarian president. Who knows? Anything can happen. These are crazy times. But I just want to pass on one message that's very important to me because it keeps coming back. Just this past week after the convention, Tom Woods, who actually spoke at the Mises Caucus event, was so energized by what he saw happening within the party with Alex Merced becoming the vice chair, Joshua Smith becoming a member of the at-large LNC. That in part with just the energy around the Mises Caucus Take Human Action bash that was thrown by Michael Heist that was an absolute wild success. With those things, Tom Woods joined the Libertarian Party, and many more people are going to join the Libertarian Party. And I encourage you, listening today, if you're not a member, do what you want to do. But let me put it this way. if you care about what the Libertarian Party says and does, the candidates they put forward, if you personally care, if it's something that you get angry about, you get upset about, and you stomp your feet, then you should probably join the party. If you don't care what the Libertarian Party does, you probably shouldn't join the party. It's pretty much that simple. So I think the important takeaway is that 2020 is a very important year. I think 2018 is also a very important year for midterms and how libertarians perform in those midterms. That's why I am helping with the Dale Kearns campaign as the campaign manager. But 2020, there's a chance the libertarians could vault onto the national stage, maybe, possibly, it's a long shot, but squeak into a debate. Ask yourself, who do you want on that stage in that debate? Who do you want carrying the message of liberty? And if you care about who that representative is, then you should join the party. You should join the party right now. I'm not making any money off you joining the party. I'm just telling you, it's simple. It's the only way you're going to have an impact, to actually become active, become a delegate, and go to, I think, the next convention in 2020 is in Austin, Texas. I'll be there. I can't speak for Mark, but I'm 99% sure my colleague Mark Claire will be there. I think some of the other Lions of Liberty are also coming to the same consensus, the same observation that I've come to, that the best way to make a political change is from within the Libertarian Party. So think about it, mull it over. Just a great weekend. I met so many awesome people and normal people, fun people. We had so much fun going out to Bourbon Street, to Frenchman Street, seeing music, dancing, karaoke. Just so much fun, and it's just a great time. So hopefully down the road, you consider joining the Libertarian Party yourself, you listeners out there. But if you don't, that's fine too. And you can complain about it. I'm not saying don't complain if you don't join. You can complain. I don't care. I'm just saying it probably makes more sense to join if you're going to complain. That's all I got, guys. It's been an exhausting couple of weeks. PorcFest followed up by this incredible Libertarian National Convention in NOLA. I just want to thank my good friend and colleague Mark Claire for really running this convention with me, going through and getting these interviews. We worked on a lot together. Mark was in front of the camera a lot more, but I promise you that I was right there with him behind the camera and helping to line these interviews up. It was just a freaking blast. Just a great time. And great to spend some time with Mark. We've been doing this podcast together for a very long time, and we hardly ever see each other. I got to see the whole Lions crew came together for PorcFest, which was amazing, and we're going to do it again next year. But yeah, it's just cool. And we have you guys to thank. We have the listeners to thank. We have our, excuse me, my mouth is getting dry. We have we have our patrons to thank who have funded this whole thing. So I'm just so freaking excited about the future of this podcast, about the future of the Liberty movement, and the small role that we're going to play in that. I'm excited, and I hope that you come and join and help us make that impact. Join us, join the Lions of Liberty Pride, donate as little as $5 a month, get bonus content, and help fuel the Lions of Liberty to the next level. That's all I got. Rant over. Thank you so much for listening. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.